The story begins with a dark and creepy palace. A woman is shown standing nervously in a room while someone enters to give her food. As soon as the door opens, she tries to escape, but others notice her, and she fails to run away. Desperate, she wraps an iron wire around her neck and uses a statue as a weight. She jumps and ends her life. Before dying, she says that everything ends with her, and no one from her generation will be left behind. Many years later, the story shifts to a young woman named Evie. She is an artist and also works hard as a waitress. Evie has a close friend, and both are trying to build a better future. One day, her friend gave her a DNA test as a gift. The test is done by a company that helps people with no family find their relatives through DNA. Back home, Evie starts making clay pots, something she enjoys, but her heart isn't in it. She looks at old photos of her parents and listens to their voice messages over and over. Her parents died years ago, and she feels completely alone. Hoping to find someone in the world who is related to her, she decides to send in her DNA. A few days later, her results come in. Evie learns that her family is originally from England, and she has a cousin living there. She feels shocked, but also excited. She shares the news with her friend. Meanwhile, her cousin in England receives the same information and reaches out to her. He invites her for coffee. Evie feels happy, thinking she's no longer alone, but her friend warns her to be careful, saying the DNA company could be a scam or trying to use her for something. Evie decides to ignore the warning. A few days later, she meets her cousin at a hotel. He is warm and kind, and she feels more at ease. He tells her their family is large and wealthy, and they're all excited to meet her. A cousin's wedding is coming up soon, and she is invited. Evie explains she can't afford the trip, but her cousin assures her that the family will cover everything as a gift. She agrees to go and travels to England. At the airport, her cousin welcomes her again and takes her to a grand palace. Evie is amazed by the size and beauty of the place. She finds out that her cousin's family works at the palace for the owner. Since the wedding preparations are going on, many workers are moving around. Evie accidentally bumps into a waitress carrying glasses. The glasses fall, and while Evie helps her, a rude servant arrives and talks down to her. Evie speaks up and says she's a guest, not a servant. Just then, a man appears and apologizes for the servant's behavior. Her cousin introduces him. He is Walter, the owner of the palace. Walter treats Evie kindly, and she feels happy. She also loves how beautiful the palace is, inside and out. A servant takes her luggage to her room. It's the same palace where the woman took her life years ago. Evie is given a nice room and a personal servant who treats her well. The servant explains the house rules. Evie should not leave her room at night, should ring a bell if she needs anything, and is not allowed to enter the library because some work is going on there. Evie opens the curtains and notices iron rods behind them. When she asks about them, the servant says they're to protect against dangerous birds that sometimes come by. Evie finds this strange, but says nothing, thinking maybe it's true. Later that night, Evie video calls her friend and shares how wonderful everything seems. The palace, the people, everything feels perfect. She says she didn't expect to be treated so well. That night, Walter visits her room again to apologize for his servant's earlier behavior. It seems he's starting to like her. Later, Evie takes a walk and spots an old building near the palace. She stops because she sees something strange and frightening near it. That night, she had a nightmare and woke up scared. Feeling thirsty, she leaves her room for water. While walking, she notices the servants gathered together. One of them is sent to clean the library, even though earlier she was told no one goes there. Evie feels something is off. Just then, her servant sees her and tells her to go back to her room, saying it's not safe to be out. Evie leaves, but another girl goes into the library to clean. Suddenly, something drops from the ceiling and attacks her. It grabs her and takes her away. The next morning, Evie is called downstairs to be welcomed by her new family. After the event, she goes back to her room and finds a beautiful dress with a note. It's from Walter, inviting her to a party later that evening. Meanwhile, a servant sends two girls to the library to get beer, but they're attacked too, and they disappear. One by one, the waitresses also start vanishing. Evie has no idea that something dark and dangerous is happening around her. That night, she gets dressed in the gown Walter sent and joins the party. There, she meets two girls. One is friendly and excited to meet her. The other is cold and doesn't like her. Evie notices she still hasn't seen the bride, which seems strange. The people here have their mysterious traditions. Walter arrives and picks Evie out of all the girls to dance with. She feels special. Later, they go for a walk, and Walter explains that the scary old building she saw was once used for storage. He takes her to another area, and they talk more. Back in her room, Evie wakes up terrified. She hides under the bed and screams. Walter comes to calm her down. He checks the room but finds nothing. He tells her it was likely a nightmare. Feeling safe with him, Evie asks him to stay until she falls asleep. In the morning, she wakes up and finds a note from him saying he left quietly to avoid waking her. Later, the two girls from the party return to help Evie get ready. While trimming her nails, one of them accidentally cuts Evie's finger and blood starts to flow. The girl can't resist and starts sucking the blood. Evie feels shocked and storms off. Now she begins to feel something is wrong with the people here. She decides to sneak into the library, the one place she was told not to go. Inside, she finds personal information about herself laid out on a table. It was collected by Walter. Feeling betrayed, she rushes to pack her bags. Walter shows up and apologizes. He explains that he looked into her background only to protect himself and his money. He says he needed to know if she came for the right reasons. His words make her doubt her feelings again, and she starts to trust him once more. That night, a grand dinner is held. Everyone is dressed in fancy clothes. Evie is given a stunning gown and sits beside Walter. He stands up and thanks everyone for serving him all these years. Then he announces that he will marry Evie. Evie feels uneasy. Things suddenly turn dark and strange. One of the servants slits a waitress's throat and pours her blood into a large bowl. Evie is horrified. Walter then explains everything. He says he is a vampire who has lived for centuries. He needs 3 wives to grow more powerful. He already has 2, the clever girl and the kind one from the party. Now he wants Evie as his 3rd wife. Walter says Evie's grandmother was his original 3rd wife. She had pure blood, which made her special, but she ended her own life. Now Walter wants to marry Evie because she shares the same bloodline. She tries to run, but it's too late. Walter tries to convince her, promising a life without death, sickness, or weakness. He says she will be stronger than 100 men and have endless wealth. Still, Evie refuses. She is locked in the basement, where Walter's 2 vampire wives visit her. They tell her they once resisted too, but after drinking Walter's blood, they felt powerful and forgot their old lives. Evie cries. She doesn't want to become a monster. They leave her alone, believing she'll eventually give in. A kind-hearted servant feels sorry for Evie and helps her escape. Evie runs away, but soon the others realize she's gone. They chase her. She hides in a nearby building. The servant who helped her was punished and killed. Evie sees the body and runs again, locking the killer servant inside. She ends up at a small house in a village and asks an old couple for help. They seem kind and let her in, but instead of calling the police, the old woman contacts Walter. They are his servants too. Evie realizes the truth too late. They offer her tea, but she throws it at them. The old woman attacks her, and Evie faints. When she wakes up, she sees Walter in front of her. He tries to convince her again. Nearby, he drinks blood from another girl. Finally, Evie agrees to the marriage. During the ceremony, she drinks Walter's blood. She becomes stronger, but just before he can drink her blood to complete the ritual, Evie sets the room on fire. The humans panic and run. Walter tries to stop her, but Evie grabs a burning weapon and stabs him in the chest. He grows weak. Evie tries to escape, but Walter's clever wife attacks her, furious that she's breaking a centuries-old rule. They fight. Just when Evie is about to lose, Walter's innocent wife steps in. Tired of this dark life, she turns against the other wife. The 2 vampire wives fight and both end up destroyed. Walter, now barely alive, grabs Evie and tries to suck her blood. She cuts his hand, breaks free, and pushes him into the fire. He dies. Evie escapes the burning mansion with the help of the kind girl who also survived. 2 weeks later, Evie is shown again. She is now a vampire, strong from drinking Walter's blood. She is with her friend, hunting down the fake cousin who caused all of this. She wants revenge. The story ends here.